Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Habits for Health, where today we'll discover a bit more about how you can eat to maximize muscle growth. And first of all, we want to dive into the macronutrients to just kind of get a overall idea of which things are most important, and then dive into the deeper details of how we can optimize all things and make sure that we maximize muscle growth as much as possible. So if you want to start, Wouter, we can start with some macronutrients. And what do you suggest on this point?
All right. Hello, Andreas and our viewers. Um, so let's break down the macronutrients that I would suggest consuming when working out. I would suggest taking somewhere in between 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Um, I would take carbohydrates uh, primarily around your workouts, and I would just take as many as you feel like you would need. And for the other meals, I might add more fats to it. So the total fatty acid content might be around like 1 gram per kilogram of body weight, and the remainder of your calories might be carbohydrates. But I would just kind of do it as you see fit. If you feel like, hey, I need more carbs, go for it, and you'll get your fatty acids another day. Um, the difference in protein intake here is based on let's say you can get away with less protein if you're getting more protein from animals rather than plants. And I think you can also get away with less protein if you're in a calorie surplus as opposed to a calorie deficit. Another thing is age. If you're younger, you can get away with less protein, and also your leanness matters. If you have a very lean body mass, your protein intake might be closer to these 2 grams per kilogram of body weight, as opposed to when you were a bit fatter. Let's take my own body and body weight as an example. I'm 34, okay age, I guess. My aging process is definitely starting. I'm mostly eating in a calorie surplus. I'm consuming both animals and plants to get my proteins, and I'm rather lean. I have visible abs. So because of my leanness, I would take somewhere in the upper range of the protein intake suggestion that I just did. So I'll have 150 grams of protein a day. It's less than 2 grams per kilogram of body weight, but it's closer to that than 1.5. And I'll separate these proteins throughout the day. So if I have 3 meals, I'll have like 50 grams of protein each meal. So yeah, that's basically it for the macronutrients. Is there anything you would like to add to that, Andreas?
Yeah, it's some good points that you mentioned, and I agree with a lot of it. So yeah, as you alluded to, like protein and carbs are the most essential in terms of muscle growth. So on those days where you want to maximize that, like on the days they actually work out, it's really essential to prioritize those. And in terms of yeah, maximizing leanness, like you would then just like prioritize those two and just like really dial down the fatty acids because then you basically just like build as much muscle as possible without gaining like a lot of fat. So yeah, like of like to me, I would probably do around like in terms of macros, I would do like around 30 to 40% of carbs and protein, and then maybe the rest fat, something like that. So really go low in fats, and then like that is kind of a good start of figuring out like where to go from. And again, like as you mentioned, like the importance of plants versus animal sources of protein is really important. Like here to think about because like if you don't really consume any animal proteins, you need a lot more because these proteins they are a lot lower quality if you're prioritizing plants over animal proteins.
Yeah.
So like it's so like if you do prioritize plants in terms of proteins overall, then I would definitely aim for the upper end as you mentioned. And like in some cases you can actually even go higher than 2 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. And this would be like, especially if you're really lean. And again, if you're prioritizing plant-based proteins, they'll go higher in proteins. So those are some pretty essential things that I would aim for. And again, like yeah, so like your point is like that you kind of prefer the 3 meals of kind of spreading it out over that. And I feel like that's pretty good. And the question also that we'll also dive a bit deeper into is kind of how you structure those meals, like what is most essential to prioritize in each meal, if it is essential to really dive deep into each meal, or if it's kind of more about the whole day, in terms of maximizing muscle growth through your nutrition. So maybe you want to start with your breakfast and like how you would start the
Yeah,
day in terms of um,
yeah,
muscle growth.
yeah. So another thing I wanted to add about the animal versus plant protein is that the bioavailability of animal protein is simply higher than the bioavailability of plant protein. And another point is that plant protein doesn't contain these essential proteins like leucine in the extent that animals do. And leucine is very important for muscle growth. I just wanted to add that. So let's go on to how your question, like how would I divide your macronutrients during the day? I think the most important thing is getting your macronutrients in. Timing is important, but it's not nearly as important as we once thought it was. Like the anabolic window of 1 hour is not really set in stone. This anabolic window, like this window after your workout where you would need to consume your calories to recover, is actually like a lot larger than we once thought. But I would just make sure that throughout the day you're in an anabolic environment by keeping your body fed with carbohydrates and proteins. So what I like to do is I like to have 3 large meals, and I'll have like a, a pre-bed snack that I'll have a few hours before going to bed, which might actually be my dessert instantly after my dinner, or I might have that a little later in the evening because I'm quite an evening. I have quite an evening appetite. So that's just for reason of convenience. Now let's get into the first meal that I'll have during the day to fuel my workouts. So my breakfast will basically be my pre-workout meal, and it's mostly raw milk. It's overnight oat. So I'll have raw milk, oatmeal, some casein protein, which is like a longer lasting protein than whey protein. So I'll use that to make sure I'm well fed throughout my workout. And I'll have some fruit with that. Like I like bananas. What can I say? So I'll have mostly have bananas with it. I could do for some more variety. I could I would might be better off adding a kiwi to that. But you got to live a little and do something that is sustainable for you. Um, so that'll mostly be my first meal today. Also, let's not forget, I'll add a lot of Himalaya salt to this meal to make sure that I have the electrolytes I need to fuel my workout. And then I'll have this meal like 3 hours before going to the gym. So it's a large meal. If you're eating closer to your workout, you might want to take less calories and you might take something that is more easily digested, like just fruits or a protein shake, um, as opposed to, say, oatmeal. Um, so yeah, I think those are the main things that I want to share in regards to my breakfast. Oh yeah, one other thing is something that I could do better is I could probably add apple cider vinegar. I could probably consume it before my meal to kind of lower the insulin spike for my meal. But I think apple cider vinegar is gross, so I don't take it, and I'm fine with the consequences of not taking that. Yeah, that's it for my pre-workout meal. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, like it's uh I like it, and like there are a lot of, yeah, nuances here that could be discuss and explore it. But like I think having some good reasoning behind your pre-workout meal, and again, like it kind of also like all of it kind of depends on your activity levels in terms of how much you need and how close to your gym session, etc. And the thing is also like if you consume too much close to your gym session, like you can feel it and it can make things difficult because like if you're just full and you go work out, like it can be quite uncomfortable. I actually experienced that a few days ago. And like I ate a really big breakfast, and I think it was like maybe like 1.5 hours, 2 hours maybe before I worked out, and like it was too much. I could really feel it. Like I really tried to pressure myself just to like still maximize all my exercises and all that. But it was difficult. I was struggling, I gotta admit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's also like an important consideration. Like so like a really important factor like overall, whether you're training for muscle growth or not, to me is really that you really tie like your meals and especially carbs to your activity levels. So
Yeah.
like if you plan to do like say a walk, bicycle ride, a run, whatever before your gym session, then you might need more food because you will then burn a lot of calories
Yeah.
through that. But like say if you're just gonna like eat some breakfast just to like go do that before the gym and not gonna like do any exercise before the gym, then like I say this is pretty good. And again, like yeah, of course you could focus on things to lower insulin spike. There's also other things you could do to do that. And but like again, this is just like about maximizing muscle growth. And I think this is really good. And again, yeah, like if you like fibers can also be a bit slow to digest. So if you consume a lot of fibers before a workout, again, it can
Mhm.
kind of make you maybe like bloat or like just feel a bit too full. That also can make the exercises a bit tougher to do. So again, like as you also alluded to, like having really easily digested foods is a really good idea to focus on. And these are like and this is kind of why you like see all these bodybuilders like focusing on things like fruit, rice, maybe like some like a few like vegetables or something, but like not like doing say a lot of beans, like too many whole grains, and like so trying to focus more on like the easily digested ones because it makes your workout so much easier.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna like and if you're like gonna work out not so long after eating it, like it doesn't really matter that much like if it might be like promote a higher insulin spike because you basically utilize that quite effectively, so it won't really
Mhm.
harm your body. So that's kind of like a pretty important factor you have to think about. But yeah, like I like your reasoning, and I feel like it's a good approach that you have going
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah, thanks. I also think that what you pointed out is that if you're like cycling to your gym or whatever, and that's taking you half an hour, keep in mind that's gonna drain some of the energy for your workout. So, yeah, I like to not do any cardio before working out. I'll do a short warm up on the treadmill, and then I'll warm up with the exercise itself. But I want to make sure that I'm energized before doing my heavy workout session. Um, So yeah, let's move on to the post-workout meals in that case. You also you just said that you might opt for things that are more easily digested rather than things that are hard to digest. So that also brings me to my post-workout meal. I tend to yeah, I'm not focusing too much on vegetables after my post-workout meal. Um, because I'm trying to gain a little bit of weight, so I want to pick calorie dense foods. So I might have something sugary and a protein shake straight after my workout. I like dried dates, so I'll mostly have those. If you have a sweet tooth and you need sweets, this is probably the best time of the day to take them. So I'll have like say 70 grams of sugar and like 25 grams of protein right after my workout to kind of get rid of the jittery feeling that I get from lifting. Um, and then I'll start preparing my post-workout meal. And if I had a really intense workout and I feel like I need a lot of carbs, I'll probably make like a rice recipe, which might be something like coconut rice or Mexican rice, whatever. And I'll add a little bit of chicken just because it's very easy to cook. Um, I could pick another kind of meat, but the chicken is just so easy. So I'll mostly go with that. Uh, and I'll mostly have like say 200 grams of rice. Um, and yeah, I'll have some fats just to make the food more palatable. Like with coconut rice, yeah, I'll use coconut milk. It's fatty, sure, but I'll make sure I get plenty of carbohydrates, and I'm not really afraid of a bit of extra fat, because I'm trying to gain a little bit of weight. So yeah, that's one example of a meal that I might have after my workout. Another thing that I might have is if I'm if I don't need as much energy as I would from a leg workout, I might go for potatoes. They're very nutritious. So I might just make like an oven meal with potatoes, chicken, and some vegetables. Um, yeah, and that's oh yeah, I might use some olive oil. I'm a bit opposed to using olive oil after my workout. I don't need those polyphenols, but hey, it's just a bit easier. And I will use some herbs and spices, but just to kind of add some flavor to it. I don't want to overuse these things because like things like spices can really induce AMPK activity. So I want to prevent that after my workout. I want to focus on activating the growth pathway, which is mTOR. Um, and the way to do that is by taking animal foods with containing leucine and carbohydrate sources. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my post workout meal.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. And like, so one thing that also want to mention just is also like, so the fact about that you mentioned that like this is a good time to ingest like sweets or like high carb stuff and like stuff like that than other times because you're basically expending like a lot of energy, and you're able to get away with a lot of stuff through that.
Yeah.
And the same actually goes for like as a pre-workout meal. You could actually also do something like pretty high in carbs. Like if you feel like having like a soda, having some sweets, having cotton candy, whatever you really love to get, like you could easily have it there. And again, as you also mentioned, like for you, it's less important to like reduce fat intake dramatically in these days because you're not really focusing on like leaning down right now. So that's kind of a consideration. But like if you are focusing on leaning down, then of course like going with some like high carb, high fat things is probably not the best idea, even though you're working out, because then
Mhm.
you're then gonna like get more fat gain along with the muscle gain. But it's really up to your focus. So in terms of if you actually focus on leanness or bulking or whatever your goal is, in terms of like how you want to mix up those ratios, and you have any questions, feel free to ask if you want more details. But this is just kind of some estimates in terms of that, and quite important considerations in terms of that. But this is a really good opportunity to kind of indulge more than normal because you're expending so much and you're really emptying your muscles that are filled with calories basically. And it's also a thing like the bigger your muscles, the more carbs and nutrients they can actually have inside of them. So that means that you can actually get away with more
Mhm.
the bigger your muscles. So if
Yeah.
you're like starting out, you might not notice like a big difference, say of like whether you work out or not because you don't have like that big muscles. So like you won't be able to get away with that much, but it's still gonna be more than normal. But if you're getting bigger and you're getting pretty big, then you can definitely notice a big difference in terms of your utilization of carbs and stuff because your muscles are just getting filled and then drained through the exercise.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are some like also the post workout meal you mentioned. Like I feel like it's it's good. And also like the thing with like chicken and rice, like so high protein and low fat. This is like a really good muscle growth
Hmm.
meal because you don't really have any fats. Like as mentioned, you might have some fats because you kind of
Yeah,
prefer that, and like
for
I totally
taste.
get that, given your
Yeah,
focus. Sorry?
it's just for taste, really. It's not essential
Yeah.
right after your workout. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah. But like if you want to focus more just like on leanness, then like a meal like that, just without the fats, would be a good idea. The same could go like something like an egg white omelette with different vegetables, and maybe some carbs if you want that as well to get some more fuel. Could also
That
be an
should
easy
work.
option.
Yeah.
And of course protein shakes again, really good, both before and after, really quickly utilized. But like here, you could also be able to consume some more fiber and some hard to digest stuff because you don't really like need to be like really loose and really able to like move a lot after because you
Hmm.
basically just like expended a lot of energy. So you probably just want to like quiet down a bit and just like eat and just focus on that. So this is a like an opportunity where you could also like consume more things like higher fiber things like beans, other legumes, whole
Yeah.
grains, maybe
Yeah.
some high fiber bread, stuff like that you consume. This is awesome opportunities there. But yeah, again, so like again, it's really about your focus. Leanness, just low fat, high medium carb, and high protein is pretty good. And if you want to focus more on bulking, a bit more fat, but again, protein and carbs are still pretty important.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally, I agree. All right, so how about we move on to dinner?
Yeah, let's do that. Sounds good.
Okay. What I usually do for dinner is I'll have some fat left and I'll need to get my fat. So I think this is a good time for me to get these fats in. And I think also not focusing too much on carbohydrates for this meal is going to be better for my insulin resistance in the long run. And again, I think this also kind of depends on how hard your workout was. Like if you're still craving carbs, go for it. But I tend to focus on mainly saturated fats for this workout and a moderate amount of protein. I'll focus on getting like bone marrow. I'll get fat from bone marrow or cheese or from butter or lard or meat like minced beef. Um, I might have some low carb bread or some sourdough bread to make the fatty acids more palatable. And this is also the meal where I'll have most of my vegetables for the day. So I mostly add peas to this, but it could be beans or it could be leafy greens, anything like that. Um, and then I'll have the remainder. If I still need some proteins, I'll take some full fat yogurt with blueberries and cinnamon. I mostly have that on most evenings. Um, so yeah, I might have that after my dinner, or if I feel like, hey, I'm gonna get an appetite in a few hours, then I might just leave that for later, and I might eat it a little later in the evening. Because I like eating in the evening, and I'll always try and get like 2 to 3 hours between my last meal and going to bed. But yeah, besides that, that's pretty much how I do it.
Yeah, it makes sense. And so this is kind of also what you kind of alluded to in terms of activity levels overall. So if you aren't really like doing a lot of exercise after your workout of the day and you just kind of just like dialing down, maybe just like chilling, stuff like that, then going with something like high fat, lower carb, and just some proteins to again keep that muscle growth in check, then that could totally be a good opportunity. But like if you want to do some more exercise later in the day, then getting some more carbs here could be a really good idea. Again, to just like load up and be able to utilize that. as well as just having like a bit more energy and not like just kind of crash because you're just like you're losing so much energy and not really getting a lot of fuel for that. But the thing is that like one thing that is also like kind of like a pretty interesting question is also whether it's most important to kind of like focus on the whole day in terms of like how many nutrients you intake, or whether like each meal is like essential in terms of like optimal muscle growth, etc. So like I don't really think we have an exact question or an exact answer on that question,
Hmm.
but the thing is that like getting enough fuel the other day is definitely important.
Yeah.
And whether you choose to do that around your workout or other times, it might not be as important. But in terms
Yeah.
of performance, you likely will experience some better performance by getting more carbs around it. But again, like we also see keto people that are able to completely do this and really function well without any carbs. So
Uh,
this is just like for optimal performance, it seems like carbs and protein definitely makes things easier. But we have many different nuances that could be put into play here.
yeah, totally, totally. I agree with you. And yeah, you can probably perform pretty well on like a keto diet. Just try and see what works best for you. And I found that my workouts, I can go heavier if I had some pre-workout carbs, and I'll have carbs afterwards as well, as opposed to being on a strictly keto diet. Um, so yeah, I would just say like consume carbohydrates around your workouts if you feel like you need them. If you can get away with less and you're trying to lose weight, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like it's a good point. There's also like a point on like so if you kind of prioritize like muscle growth or you prioritize say losing fat or like what your kind of focus is because like if you focus on like losing fat quite a lot, then like possibly like after you work out, like if you want to like continue that like fat burning going, then like not really consuming any carbs could actually be a good idea both before as well as after the workout. And maybe first getting some carbs the next day or in the evening, because then you're kind of like just keep on that fat burning going. So that's
mhm,
also like an opportunity for you. But again, listen to your
yeah,
body as well as your focus is really important here because there could be so many different nuances. But yeah, this is like a really good plan that could work for a lot of people. And then it's just like about how you personally want to focus on this and what matters most to you.
yeah, totally, totally. Also, I want to add to this that I'm on a calorie surplus of say like 10% on days that I train, and I don't eat like that every day. I'll have less calories on days that I don't work out, and I'll yeah, we'll dive into that in another video. Um, so yeah, it's not the same every day, and I would definitely suggest like keeping track of your macros and micros using a fitness app like Chronometer, for example. Um, and of course, other things that are just general nutrition advice. As always, try and minimize processed foods, and when you're the yeah, try and eat organic as much as possible. Try and eat grass fed. But those things they apply to yeah, just general nutrition advice, whether you're eating to bulk up or to lose weight.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like that's also like so what you mentioned in terms of like calories. So that could also be an important consideration. So if you're like aiming to gain more size, then like getting a bit more calories on your workout days could be a great opportunity to drive more growth there. But again, it's not essential, but like if you want to aim for a bit more growth, then it could be a good idea. But like we also see people just like doing kind of dirty bulks, just consuming like a lot of bad foods, as
Hmm.
well as like just over consuming stuff. So like say if you consume like double the calories of your body's requirements, even accounting for all the exercise that you do, like that could work for a few days depending on what you do before. So like there's some different considerations that could be taking place there. But if you do that like over a long period, say like over like weeks, months, etc., and just like double your intake there, like you would drive a lot of fat gain along with the muscle growth.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah,
question is,
yeah,
do you really want that? Because then like you have to like kind of yo-yo your diet by like losing, gaining,
yeah,
all that. So like yeah, the
yeah.
question is like, what do you want to get to? But but yeah, like ideally you would if you basically just want to like gain size but not gain a lot of fat, then just like having a small surplus of maybe like 10 to 20% is pretty good. But
Yeah.
like if you go beyond that, like you usually just gain like quite a bit too much fat, and it could be a bit of an obstacle long term, and you have to just like dial it down later to get more lean
Yeah,
again,
yeah,
which you might or might not want. But yeah, it's up to you, of course,
yeah.
what you want to focus on.
I totally agree. Like if you want to get somewhere, I would do it with patience to not just to make sure that you don't gain too much fat, but also by overeating, you're stimulating mTOR to such an extent that this might also leave more cancer cells in your body, and it might lead to like insulin resistance, which are things you want to avoid. And this is a longevity channel, and that just doesn't really resonate with our goals.
Yeah, yeah, and this is also something that we will dive deeper into during the recovery days in terms of how we want to structure those ideally.
Yeah,
So like on days where you want to work out and want to maximize muscle growth, then you could get away with some more if you want to gain some more size. But like if you do that continuously, it could be a really bad idea long term. So this is
totally.
something that we will definitely dive deeper into, and because this is a really important consideration because as mentioned it could have a lot of bad downstream effects if you just keep
Hmm.
on this loop all the time.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to share on this topic, and we'll definitely dive further into um, eating for recovery in another video.
Yeah, sounds good. Let's definitely do that. It's gonna be really important because we ideally want to have this balance of like both kind of days
Mhm.
where
Yeah,
sometimes we want to maximize muscle growth, other times we want to like just like dial down and not like make sure that our bodies just kind of go haywire because we just focus on mTOR
yeah,
and muscle growth way too much, which could have a lot of bad effects long term. So that's kind of thing. Like one thing that we just like see that like there are a lot of people that kind of don't really understand that like short term things might be cool and stuff, but like if you just keep on doing it and don't really focus on the long term goals, it could be really bad for you. So
yeah,
this is something that we're thinking about like optimizing the long term, and this is why we are trying to like get in this balance of recovery days as well as days are focused more on muscle growth. So we'll definitely dive deeper into that. And until then, thank you so much for watching. And do you have any last thoughts or insights you want to share before we go?
No, I want to thank our viewers, and if they have any questions about this, please reach out, and we'll take our time to answer them or do our investigation if necessary.
For sure.
Yeah,
Sounds great. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and thank you, Wouter. It was a pleasure to discuss this with you.
likewise. Ciao.
So take care. Bye.